Today in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Eivor went on a one-man raid and then a rampage against an entire company of guards. Normally you'd rock up with a whole boat full of warriors and sack an entire town, but our lone wolf had to go it alone. For the sake of reclaiming his honour, of course, mainly because of this horn, but to understand why this happened, we have to look at the life of our leading man. Being a Viking isn't exactly easy. Most experience some sort of childhood trauma and then they get a life of farming, fighting and fearsome drinking that leads to thoughts of exploration, expansion and the thrill of facing new enemies. Sometimes, all these dreams are met with the sobering reality of having to fight the neighbours across the street who would otherwise sell their kin to slavery, but everyone loves the clanging of a good comeback story and Eivor is the type who overcomes such trying times. At least that is until doubt finally creeps its way in and he feels damned by the gods themselves. The question is, which moment led to our protagonist feeling truly cursed? Or was it merely a series of unfortunate events? Alright, well let's see. After meeting two strange men from a secret order who passed a secret blade to his best mate who then gave it to Eivor because it looked like a flowery garden golden bracelet, and then, upon realising it was a weapon, he took one look at it and decided he wasn't going to wear it the way they told him to.
The blade should ride on the underside of your arm to conceal it from your target.
I have no wish to hide this, and I would rather not make the same mistake you two have.
Was this a slight upon some tradition upheld for hundreds of years? A slap in the face of fate, perhaps? Well, maybe, but then Eivor found himself on a mission to a nearby town, only to realise he was actually going the wrong way, so he could either turn back, which of course Vikings cannot bring themselves to do, or the second option, scale a mountain, which he hoped would have a monument at the top where strange men would teach him dragon tongues to shout his enemies back to oblivion, but instead he was met with snow and more rock. But unbelievably, after spending half a day perilously climbing through a rough vertical mountainside, Eivor came across another human being after all.
Will you lend me your strength? Throw everything over the cliff. The farther you throw, the better their chance of reaching the next world.
Is that how it works?
Truth be told, he was pretty tired and a fair bit of his strength had faded as well as the frostbite gnashing away at his fingers. However, he gave his best attempts at heaving belongings off a cliff, but alas, Eivor did not hear the splash of water or the breaking of boxes. So when it came to reporting back to our quest giver,
You missed a few things.
The gods will get the idea.
To Asgard!
What? Wait!
Thank you!
Thor's hammer. That was a shock.
now he definitely felt bad about not getting those boxes to the ocean and felt honour bound to find those belongings and give them the proper send-off. But first, he had to try to take them for himself, to which the gods said no. Watching them bounce off yet another set of rocks made things even worse, and rather than persevere any longer, Eivor decided that in fact none of this was his fault. And you don't need belongings in Valhalla when you're going to spend your time in the Great Hall drinking, and that is if Odin even let someone in who yeeted themselves off a mountain anyway. Upon Eivor's arrival to England, he had his first dose of combat from the English in the form of bandits, who instead of fighting like warriors, they were handing out large doses of mud from slings. Eivor didn't like that. He didn't like that one bit. He then went off looking to forge new alliances and came across Soma, who would become a valuable friend, by the way. He also realised that Eivor really doesn't like pikemen as opponents, and
Put you on a pike!
he decided that he would let them know what it feels like to be constantly prodded with the pointy end of the stick. As Soma and Eivor were on their travels, it gave them joy to run into more bandits who were actually bulldozed by a giant boar. Watching the men do their funny fleeing gladdened their hearts. And the two bonded as they quested to take back what was stolen from Soma, a town she had built from the ground up. So with all her advisors rescued and the raiding party reunited, they all went back to retake Grant Bridge. But this is where things started to go wrong.
Wigmund! Honor thief! I know you're up there. Quit Grant Bridge, and when she is mine once more, I may spare your life.
Ha! I command Grant Bridge. I am master here, and I will scour you rats from this land like rot from a festering wound.
Let me give you some advice, old bear. The surest way to stop a wound from festering isn't with a blade. It's with fire.
No! Thanes of Grantebridgeshire! Retake what is yours!
Eivor tried to get involved, but he was anticipated. His moves slow, his allies finishing foes before he could get to them. A triumphant, glorious moment was robbed from the hero of our tale. But the taking of the Longhouse would soon redeem Eivor, as a mighty opponent stood before him. Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but the big man went down to Eivor, choking him out. He was then given a great honour, despite doing absolutely nothing.
Walk with me. I want you to sound our battle horn to announce our victory. Let all the Shire know that Grantbridge is retaken. The sound of the horn means prosperity, long life, bounty.
Why me?
Why not? You were the keystone to this attack. You turned the tide. Let the wind from your lungs breathe life back into my city.
Look, don't judge, guys. You don't know how hard it is to get a sound out of that thing. Anyway, as they feasted later that night, Eivor knew he'd messed up. Big time. He could feel disappointment through the back of Soma's skull. He'd have to reclaim his honour and then learn how to blow one of those big horns, because honestly, that was his first time. It's not like those little handheld ones you just parp into and everyone comes running. Anyway, instead of blowing the horn at all, Eivor went on a one-man mission the next day to raid an entire town by himself. He decided to start by plundering the buildings where large chests full of loot lay.
Come, help me with this.
Good old sturdy English oak. Yeah, well, he opted to deal with the door later and began by announcing his presence to the denizens. After all, in a raid, you can slaughter anyone as is decreed by Vikings law. Civilian casualties will result in desynchronization. What's desync... You mean, we're in the Matrix? Ah, this sucks. Plug me back in. As it would happen, the two-handed axe does a lot of damage, but the trouble with it as a weapon is that when you're swinging something as heavy as a young adult lion around, it makes combat tactics somewhat of an issue, especially with multiple opponents. After After dispatching his enemies with copious amounts of luck coupled with relentless fury, Eivor freed the hostages, who were keen on taking revenge on their captors. Look, that wasn't my fault. That guy tried to get me desynced on purpose. Anyway, then it was time to get back to that door. After we said hello to that nice little jockey. Oh, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. But yeah, the door. That thing wasn't going anywhere, and the dog opted not to help. So Eivor blew the handheld and pet the little doggy again. Good boy. Turns out that the horn also calls reinforcements for the enemy, which sucks because we'd already raided this place ourselves, but fine. Eivor was feeling humiliated about the door thing, so wandered out into the open for an even bigger challenge. Nearby reinforcements heard about the Vikings raiding their towns and smashing all of their allies, so they sent in a tougher band of warriors to deliver justice. This would be a perfect time to issue a challenge.
You're going down!
Things were going quite well, but do you remember Kendall? Yeah, you know. Kendall. Yeah, him. He wanted a word. All true warriors know that an arrow to the knee is fatal, allowing our hero to teach Kendall the one lesson he should have learned earlier in life. It turned out Eivor wasn't the one to teach him it, because Eivor and Kendall weren't supposed to meet until much later, and we screwed up the timeline, but that's alright. We'll get Tony Stark to beam me back onto the X-Wing so we can enter our name into the Goblet of Fire again and burn down the Shire with Kryptonite as our beacon of starlight so we can do this once more. I've been Ragtag, the greatest gutter tier gamer on the face of this earth, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, loving it. Catch you on the next one, later.